Welcome to the Big Mike Fun Podcast, where you'll learn about advanced wealth building strategies from real estate investing to creating massive ROI and secured retirement profits. So pour yourself a cup of coffee, grab a notepad, and lean in, because Big Mike has got the mic, starting now.
Welcome to the Big Mike Fun Podcast. I'm the Big Mike, Mike Zlatnik, and it is my pleasure and a privilege to welcome Tom Zeeb. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming to the podcast. Tom is a business coach. His expertise is helping business owners, investors in real estate develop and grow their businesses. One of his specialties is negotiations. So, Tom, before we dive into your art of negotiation, maybe have you written a book? We'll have another conversation on the art of negotiation, but tell folks a little bit about you. Where do you live? Family, anything that you like to share?
Gotcha. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, and then I spent a good 24 years in Washington, D.C., and now I live in Sarasota, Florida for the last few years.
That's awesome. Go Bills, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's tough. I'm actually a Buffalo Bills fan.
Good.
Believe it or
What do you
not.
know?
Yeah, I lived upstate New York. I went to school upstate New York, and yeah, it's they're a little bit struggling this year. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Maybe you live in Sarasota now. You like Tampa Bay Bucks. Is that your team now?
Well, I'm still a hometown boy. I mean, look, it's been tough. My 4 years in high school were the 4 years that the Bills were in the Super Bowl, but not winning the Super Bowl. These things happen.
I remember. I came to the country in '89, and they were good those few years. Exactly. So that was the disappointing years, but at least they went to the Super Bowl. Now They can't make it that deep. So, all right. So let's switch to real estate. And so, how do you work with investors in real estate? First of all, you coach. What do you coach? Just general business? You coach negotiations? Just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, real estate investing specifically, mostly residential. I have some students that do commercial, because the main thing I teach people is how to negotiate great deals. And that's a skill that is, honestly, you can use it in anything, but specifically in real estate investing, it's what gets you more deals and gets you more profit out of each and every deal.
So how do you do that? Give us some real meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
How do you negotiate a successful, again, residential deal? So you're dealing with an individual, family, their situation, of course, and they need to sell for whatever reason. Hopefully you find motivated sellers. But how do you negotiate a better deal? Quite often people with limited supply, they'll say, hey, I want my $200,000 for the house, and if I don't get it, I'm not selling, period.
Yep, that's some people. Now, if you heard somebody say that, they're not terribly motivated. When they know they have time to wait for better options, they don't have enough pressure on them. So I'm usually looking for people. It's interesting that negotiation in many ways starts with good marketing. If I'm marketing for the right kinds of people that have some pressure on them, have a bad situation in their life or a bad situation with the property, they're more interested in getting that problem solved than they are waiting around for the price. And so those tend to be my best deals. So the negotiation, I've already preset myself for that negotiation to be easier because I've marketed for the right kind of people.
Yeah, understood. So you're trying to solve that problem and you want to hear the problem first.
Yes. So I basically do negotiation in 3 phases. Hearing the problem first is very much the first stage. I call that pinpointing. We want to pinpoint what the problem is. Ask them a lot of questions. Dig down. Keep peeling off layers of the onion to what they say and asking them for more and more and more. Because as you're getting them to talk about their problems, they're developing a deep sense of rapport with you. They're opening up to you. They're confiding things in you. And then now that you know the overall picture, you can move on to the second part, which is package. You got to be able to package up a solution that would work for them. So they've told you what the problems are. So put together a solution that would solve those problems for them, while at the same time making you profit. Now, just because you know the problems and you give them a solution that would work, doesn't mean they automatically say yes. That's why the third part of negotiation, you need to persuade. The persuasion piece is key. And that's really, you mentioned it before when you said the art of negotiation, but it's not just the art of negotiation. In fact, the art matters less than the science. What I like to teach people is that there's a science to negotiation. A lot of it's the way you expect people to respond and certain psychological principles that most human beings follow certain patterns. And so if you learn to use these negotiation techniques to persuade people, you have a higher chance of getting them to say yes. You have a higher chance of getting the price down to their true bottom line, which is what's going to work better for you because it's going to produce more out of each and every deal.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So I guess you build rapport with them, you understand the problem, you build some kind of relationship. Do you do any kind of reciprocity, a law of reciprocity? You do something nice for them, you bring them some cookies or some honey or something to get them a little warm up, because they usually feel the weight of their problem. It's a good old technique. Do something for them. Even a small gesture can buy some goodwill, right?
Yep, totally depends on the situation. I mean, sometimes that stuff is a very natural fit. Other times they're just happy enough that you're actually solving the problem, giving them good advice they can work on, and then putting together an offer that they realize that the sense of relief that they start to realize is going to happen draws them through to wanting to complete the deal with you.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I used the example of honey years ago. I negotiated with an old man and I brought him a jar of honey before even any negotiation. I just brought him the honey and kind of made him feel nice, so happy. I don't know. So let's continue the discussion. So what's your process working with a coaching student? How do you work with them? Do you work with them on monthly basis, weekly basis, bi-monthly? How do you teach them? Do you have a program? People come and meet with you in person? I'm just curious, because this negotiation is a very important element of getting the deal or not getting the deal. If you can get the right terms, that makes a lot of sense. By the way, do you negotiate in terms? Because I've seen this quite a bit where folks, they want the price, and then as long as they get that price, they're willing to give up all kinds of terms. For example, if they have a great assumable mortgage, well, maybe it's not assumable, but you can figure out the structure, take over their mortgage payment, and the interest rate is very low. Just curious if you do any of that.
Yes, I always offer terms up front. I offer an all cash price and I offer a higher price on terms, because what I'm testing for is, are they flexible on price or are they flexible on terms? If they wind up being flexible on neither one, it's probably not a deal, or they're not motivated enough yet for me. I might have to sit them out for a month or 6 weeks and then call them back and see if things have changed. So I'm always offering cash and terms, because when you give somebody a choice of offers, they start debating between your offers. Mike, if I make you one offer, what can you say to me? What are your choices? I know, hey, I'll give you $300,000 for the property.
Yes or no? It's a binary.
Yes or no, because I made you one offer. But if I make you two offers, if I say I'll give you $300,000 cash for the property, or I'll give you $330,000 if I could pay you out over 10 years. Well, what are your options now?
Yeah, you automatically, you're forcing them to think about which offer to take rather than yes or no.
Correct. Now, yeah, so they're debating offer A, offer B, offer A, offer B, but they could still say no, but they don't think of saying no as fast, because now that rather than take it or leave it, they're debating the merits of your offer. They could still say no. They often do, but you've got them thinking about those offers first, and that's important. Then I can dig down and realize, okay, most of the time they go, well, you could offer more. So I want the higher price, but I just want to get out. I don't want any fancy terms. Great. So I have them merge the offers together and start to move me up, because I always want them moving me up to quote unquote their price. That way they feel like they won. That's a really important thing when you're negotiating. Let the other party feel like they won.
That's a great wisdom. I love it. You're basically letting them come to a conclusion and letting them put together a counter offer that which you actually would love to probably take, but you are giving them the opportunity to give you the offer rather than the other way around, where you give them the offer and then they have the negotiation power. Because if they count at whatever it is, it's almost like they can't come back. This is what they what they came up with. So, but maybe you sort of influence them. The art of influence makes a lot of sense.
There's also some other things occurring in the background. Look, barely anyone functions totally on their own. Most people have a family member they're going to talk to, maybe a spouse, a significant other, a kid, a friend. Most people have somebody else they're going to discuss the deal with, because they just need a little bit of assurance. And so if you make them an offer and they take it, and there's been no back and forth, if you haven't actually negotiated and made them fight for their price, well, when they go and talk to that other person, the other person looks at them and say, wait a minute, they offer you that and you took it? You didn't push back at all. So they don't have a leg to stand on. So when you learn to make somebody fight for their price, when you learn to make them bring you up to their price, you're also giving them a leg to stand on when they're talking to other people, because then they say, oh, what do you mean you're selling the property for 300,000? They say, well, hey, initially he offered me 250. I got him up to 300. And so now they feel like they won, and they have a legitimate leg to stand on when they're trying to rationally explain it to other people, which basically means they're trying to rationalize it to themselves. So it's an important thing to bring somebody through the negotiation process. The process itself actually helps lock the person into your deal.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. I appreciate you sharing this, because that affirmation by a family member is important. And do you pull in, when you're talking with a family, do you pull in husband and wife? Do you try to do it in front of both of them, or you try to do it in front of one and then let the other one kind of, and if it's an elder person and they need a son or a daughter to help them make a decision, do you loop them in?
Yeah. So let's break those down. A couple, if they're obviously joint decision makers. I always want all the decision makers there. Otherwise, what winds up happening is I think I have an agreement with somebody, and then they go get objected to. So I'd rather have all the decision makers together. It might be siblings, it might be spouses. So I want them there. Now, the other scenario you brought up, if I'm dealing with an older seller, I want to negotiate with them. But if I have the least bit of inkling that there might be an issue, particularly as they get older, I definitely want the family members involved, because I want their confirmation of it. I don't want anyone thinking I've taken advantage of this person. And I certainly want them there so that there's no mental competency issues or questions. So I want to show them that we're doing what's best for this person, and that's confirmed by everybody else.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You certainly want to make sure, like, everything is a win-win. This is a win-win negotiation. You make them feel good about what they've accomplished on their side, and obviously, your numbers. So
yeah,
makes sense. So how do you teach all this to students? Like, basically, what you described is it's a developed technique, it's a developed methodology, and folks that are in the business, that are looking to get better at this component of their business, they need and they could benefit from your coaching. How do you do this? Is there webinars, workshops? How do you do it?
Yeah, I've got a whole process I bring people through. So students in my program, we meet twice a month online. And I also do a couple of in-person events each year. So that twice a month online, and a lot of the training is on negotiations. There's always open Q&A, so people get to role play with me on the negotiations. That helps move them through. But what I take all students through at the very beginning when you join is the one thing that makes everybody better at anything. So what makes you better at something, Mike?
Well, that's a tough question. What makes me better at something? I mean, it depends. I don't have a straight answer, but motivation.
Yeah,
practice, motivation. Yeah,
practice. Yeah. So I've got to bring everyone through practice. So I go through a whole set of different exercises I want people to do, and then I give them kind of live fire exercises, so to speak, where I want them calling and talking to motivated sellers. That way they can start to get the flow down of what I've taught them. I say, look, at the beginning, don't worry about it. It's not going to flow right. You're not going to like the way you sound. But the only way to get better at that is to actually do it. So I have everyone go through multiple times that they're going, they're talking to motivated sellers and going over my different systems of negotiation. That way they get better at it. It starts to become more natural. And they realize, I said, look, the art doesn't matter at the beginning. The art is how you say it and how you deliver it. That'll develop with time. What's more important is just the science behind the techniques that I'm teaching. Because you'll be surprised, you can totally flub it up. You can totally sound awful on the phone, and yet the technique will still work because it's the science behind that technique that's working.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Framework helps, and then repetition is the mother of learning. And yes, repetition makes you better.
Practice makes
all of us. Practice makes perfect. You just keep doing it again and again until you get better. And the funny thing, it's a little bit, you have to overcome your own fear, uncertainty, doubts, and then you just kind of do it. And if you do it enough, you get so much better. And it's almost like you are getting people like a coach in anything, any sport, right? Your best performance in the field can never be worse than the worst practice or something like this. Something along those lines. Maybe I goofed it up. But if you practice really well and you get to the point where you are excellent, then you'll do well in the field.
Yep, it starts to become natural. So what I teach people too is when you learn the different components, I call it my negotiation stack, because you can stack the techniques in a different way each time. It's very modular because different human beings, we're all different people. So if I talk to the first motivated seller, I need to stack my negotiation techniques in one way. But I talk to the next person, they behave totally different. They've got a totally different story, totally different way of talking. I wind up having to create another custom stack for them. So each time I do it, I get to modularly put everything together, and it makes it flow the right way, which is what I really like.
That makes sense. So you have to evaluate who you're dealing with, right? That's probably step number one, is to understand your customer or who you're chatting with. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So what other advanced nuggets do you teach? Just curious for folks who would like to learn. Any other great shares if they start working with you? What else do you give them, like just secret sauce? And anything else you could share?
Well, let's do a couple of techniques, Mike. Let's see what happens. So Mike, say a number.
24.
24? Really? Now, that's called a flinch. I flinched when you said a number. Now, how did you feel about your number when I flinched?
I don't know. I felt a little when you said a number, I thought, is it a digit or a number? The first thought. And digit, I would have said, 6 or 4 or 5. But a number, I could have said 739,864, right?
Yep. And I would have flinched the exact same way. So how did my flinch make you feel about the number that you said?
Okay, I don't know why. I'm a little surprised that you don't like my number. You said a number. I said it's a number, right? That's a good number, right? To me, it's a good number.
To you, it's a good number, but clearly I didn't like it. And so that's a very common thought that people have. So when someone flinches at your number, you start going, oh, I guess that number's not right. So if I asked you, how much are you selling the property for? And you gave me a price and I flinch, you're clearly thinking, oh, I guess he doesn't like that number. That number must not be right. So that's one of the first techniques I use, is always flinching at a number, because it softens the other side up and gets them kind of self-doubting their own number. The second technique I'll use then is called bracketing. I want to create a bracket around their number and my number, so we get to where I need to be. So where do we tend to meet? Like, where's the most fair spot for two people to meet?
Well, it depends on your approach, right? If you ever read the book Never Split the Difference, right? But the natural thought is to meet in the middle. But there are some folks who never want to split the difference, my way or the driveway.
I guess so. I haven't read it.
Okay, meet in the middle. Let's go with that.
Splitting the difference is a great technique when you use it right. So, but yes, we tend to meet in the middle because that feels the most fair. Okay, so what my bracketing technique does is engineer where the middle is. I put the middle to be exactly where I need it to be. The middle becomes my maximum allowable offer. So if I asked you how much you're selling the property for, and you said 300, but let's say my analysis says I need to get it for 250, but you're saying 300, you're $50,000 high. Well, that means if I'm going to make my target price the middle, 250, and you're 50 high, I need to go $50,000 lower. So that way 250 is in the middle. So
you flinch and you come back. Oh, first you flinch and then you come back. Boy, I thought this. I didn't think I was going to pay over 200. Something like that, right?
It'd be something like that. Except I would modify it a little bit, because I would never pay $200,000 for that property, but I would pay $203,579, because the third negotiation technique I want to teach you guys is specific numbers. Always roll out a super specific number like that, because it sounds a lot more scientifically calculated. It sounds like you really know what you're doing. It sounds analyzed. Your number is going to be taken a lot more seriously. Your offer is going to be taken a lot more seriously by the other party, because it's a specific number. It's not just 200,000. It's 203,579. they're thinking, wow, how did he come up with that? That's good. There's something serious about it. So I always want your offers to be that kind of solid. So those 3 techniques I love. I've got 52 different techniques I use. Those 3 I use in pretty much every single negotiation because they're that powerful and that important.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing. These are really good nuggets for folks who are negotiating. These are pretty powerful, simple techniques. Yeah, I love the specific number, whatever it might be. All the way down to $1. That really makes somebody feel as if you did your math. So, how would folks reach out to you? Is there a good website? How do they learn more about your programs? Share a little bit. How what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, 2 ways. If you want to learn more about negotiation, my podcast is called The Art and Science of Real Estate Negotiation. You can find that at tomzeeb.com. That's TOM, Z as in zebra, EE, B as in boy.com. And if you'd like to watch a lot of training videos and learn more about the program, that's at tractionrealestatementors.com. tractionrealestatementors.com.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I like the simple names. Tom Zeeb, you have an easy name to spell. If people can't spell Tom Zeeb, then
it often gets misspelled. I think just because we both have Z's in our name, that's we it always gets misspelled. That's why Z as in zebra, EE, B as in boy.
Yeah, but the second website a little bit long. tractionrealestatementors.com. I guess you could spell that. It's theoretically these are easier words because of
correct.
So thank you for sharing. Any final thoughts, any final share, any obviously great negotiation techniques? This guy asked you about the book. Are you in the process of writing a book? Because these negotiation techniques are advanced and powerful, and most people write a book.
Yes. So funny you mentioned that. I have a book out already. It's called How to Correctly Flip Houses for a Profit. You can find that on Amazon. Just type my name and it'll show up. There's also an audio version available. And I do have a new book coming out on negotiation. Not ready to reveal the title of it yet. It's in editing. Hopefully be done in the next couple of months. And it goes deep into a lot of negotiations. Really, I'm very happy with what I've written so far and the way it's shaping up. So I think it'll be an excellent read for your listeners.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, the techniques you share, some basic stuff is awesome. I'm sure the book goes deep and some really advanced techniques. And at the end of the day, like you said, practice. So whatever they read in the book, they have to practice, and that'll make them a better negotiators.
Practice just those 3 things I just taught you as well. I mean, practice using those now. I mean, you know them, now you can use them. Go forth and use them and watch what happens. I think you'll start to see really good price drops that you'll be impressed with, and then you'll want to learn more.
Yeah, I want to see that when I go try to buy a car. It
works.
They want one price. You're gonna say, "Oh my God, I thought I would never pay more than this for this car." I say, "Go take a hike. We got a limited supply. We got buyers lining up to get the car. Don't try to negotiate with me." But I guess it works. You got to have a motivated seller, and a car dealership is not a motivated seller. But maybe you can do it if you're buying a used car.
Yet it still works. I did it with my car earlier in the year. And yeah, it is. It's a tough car buying market. It's hard for the buyer. It's much more on the car dealer's side. Yet I managed to get the car price down, and I was happy, rolling out a whole bunch of different techniques and hitting it from different angles. So it's all very doable. You'd be surprised. Everything's negotiable, and all we do in life basically is negotiate with other people. Yet they don't teach it in school. That's why I find it odd. It's such a powerful skill, yet it's not really taught anywhere. And that's my main mission, is to get people negotiating properly, because everything gets better.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's funny how it is in the business schools. They don't even teach you the art of negotiation. They'll teach you finance, they'll teach you accounting, they'll teach you management, but they don't teach you the art of negotiation. So great to having you on a podcast. Thank you, Tom, for coming. And once again, tomzeeb.com and tractionrealestateinvestors.com is the way to reach out to Tom. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for listening to the Big Mike Fund Podcast. To receive your copy of Mike's How to Choose a Smart Real Estate Fund book, head to bigmikefund.com or visit Amazon and type Mike Zlotnick. Keep listening and keep investing Big Mike style. See you on the next episode.